What are you doing? What are these guys doing? What are you doing?
This is Gateway City Sports.
It's a trap!
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I break your concentration?
This is the Team of Rivals Podcast.
Everything you want to hear from the big sports to the big screen.
He's all by himself, fires into the end zone. Touchdown! No! Vaughn into the windup and his first offering. Just a bit outside. He tried the corner and missed.
He doesn't like you. I don't like you either.
Time winding down, Michael for three. Yes! She is gone! I don't believe what I just saw. Go crazy, folks! Go crazy! You believe in miracles?
Yes! You may fire when ready.
What?
Good evening, Cubs and Cardinals fans. It's Thursday, March 18th, and this is the Team of Rivals podcast, proud members of the Gateway City Sports Network. You know, it's often been said that this isn't the best podcast on the internet, but we are happy to embrace our newly discovered status as the shittiest podcast on the internet. And tonight, I'm commemorating that fact by broadcasting from the throne. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. I am broadcasting live, sitting on the toilet. Now, you can follow us at teamofrivalspodcast.com, on Instagram and Facebook at Team of Rivals Podcast, and on Twitter at Team of Rivals Pod. And for those of you watching us live, hit the like and subscribe buttons. They're right down here, right down here. And be sure to ring that bell on YouTube so that you receive notifications anytime we post new content. Joining me for tonight's show, we have the full crew here. The world's shittiest permanent occasional guest host, the Earl of Sandwich himself, Elliott Dewey. And number 48, it really does show you just how shitty he is in the 2020 edition of the Top Cards on Twitter, Mr. Shit himself, Ron Nuttall. Gentlemen, where were you when you found out that we were some shitty podcast?
I was sitting on my couch.
I think I was doing the same thing.
Watching the spring training game.
Yeah, I think I was doing the same thing.
Scrolling through Twitter on my day off, and I'm like, holy shit, we're the shittiest podcast on the internet. I might as well just go.
I know, just quit, right? To turn the mics off, sell them on Facebook Marketplace, just get rid of it all. I mean, why bother?
Really? That was the reaction. I was actually rather proud when I saw that we were some shitty podcast.
Actually, my first reaction was, she hasn't been on the podcast for over a year. What the hell?
Well, right. And you know what? Sometimes people leave stuff in their bios or whatever, descriptions, whatever social media account you're using. I don't, I have no heartburn or love lost for any of that stuff. But you're right, Elliott. She hadn't been with us for a long time. I'm glad we got pulled into it. Hey, there's a line of thought that says any publicity is good publicity, and that's how I'm going to treat this one, right? I mean, look, I'd rather be known as the shittiest podcast, and I've never heard of your podcast before. Which one's worse?
Yeah. And to that end, we do want to welcome those of you who are joining us tonight to find out just how shitty this podcast can be, because you're going to find out over the next hour or so. Because if you tuned in to hear about baseball, there's not much to talk about, because we are not the kind of people who get into spring training and the minutia of the AA prospect who might or might not get shipped up based on his ninth inning performance against the Cleveland Indians. But we're not going to go there tonight because, like I said, that's not what we're here to talk about. So, gentlemen, shitty topics. Cubs or Cardinals first? What do you guys say? Ron, why don't you address the whining and the diarrhea, let's say, coming out of the Cardinals fan networks regarding our favorite salsa magnate, Matt
Yeah,
Carpenter.
yeah. So I mean, there's been a lightning rod, and the Cardinals have had more of them in this last couple of years than they ever have. And there's two of them that I can think of that are probably the hottest of hot buttons right now. Harrison Bader is perpetually one of them. Okay, let me get in here in a second. But the other one obviously is Matt Carpenter. There is an unreasonable amount of anxiety of people when they look at a spring training lineup and continually see him in it. Is the team trying to give him every single opportunity they can to get something right, to get any of his form back whatsoever? Yes. They're paying him, $18 million this year. I mean, they're going to try to do that. They're going to try to get something out of it. He gave them a pretty good half decade, somewhere in the last, from 2012 through 2018. He was one of their better hitters for a half a decade. So they're going to give him every opportunity. And I'm not worried about it. You know why, guys? Because Tommy Edman is going to be the starting second baseman. That's pretty clear by the performance in spring training. He's having a really good spring training. I think he's my leadoff hitter if I had to write the lineup today. Carpenter's not going to start at third. I think we made an acquisition in the offseason that kind of says that we've got a third baseman now that's going to play. And as far as we know, there's not going to be a DH. So I don't know what people are. I mean, I get it. But then I stop and breathe for a second and I go, this is spring training. Like, we have 2 weeks till opening day. This is the worst part of the year. I mean, this is like as bad as January used to be, Pete. Remember when no moves were made? Most everything was done in December, and we sat through January. We had to get drunk on one podcast because we were so goddamn bored. We didn't have anything to talk about. And this is how the last 2 weeks of spring training are like this for me. I don't want to watch any more of it. It's like it's not real. I got my fix from hearing the sounds and the announcers on TV, but other than that, man, I'm ready to get it going, and so I'll suffer through these final 2 weeks, I guess. So they wore green jerseys and shit yesterday around the league. I don't care. It's the worst part of the year. March Madness is starting up. Everybody's distracted by filling out their brackets. Shocking that I wasn't paying attention all winter. I came out of a slumber and found Illinois was ranked 3rd in the nation. Like, when the hell did that happen? I'm in Carolina territory out here. That's all I hear about.
Right there with you.
Yeah. So, I'm a bandy. Call me a bandy. I'm a bandwagon fan when it comes to the Illini. When they make it to, March Madness and they're highly ranked, I will watch. I don't know any of their names, and I truly mean that. I know not a single player's name. I don't know who coaches them. Right? Okay.
That's who you need to know.
You could have told me Muggsy Bogues. I would have believed you. So this is the worst as far as baseball goes. It's gonna just sludge through these last 2 weeks. That's where I'm at. I'm not freaking out at all. The only reason I'll freak out is no. Go ahead.
Has anybody considered that the Cardinals could be showcasing Matt Carpenter for that big pre-opening day trade that ships him off for 5 4th-round picks and salary relief?
Pete, you're not
from
showcasing.
What I understand, the Rockies are selling hard. So.
And don't forget about the compensatory pick.
You are not showcasing a batting average of .045. Okay, that's not a showcase. That's what he is batting right now. And I know some people out there, and I had a podcast earlier this week that talked about it, old stats versus new stats. .045, Elliott, look it up. At least it was that this morning before tonight's game. That's not a showcase. That's a no case. No case for a trade. Who cares? 20 some at bats, 30 at bats. I don't know. He's had a majority of the starts, right? He started just as much as anybody.
So he's got one hit.
He's got one hit.
One goddamn
hit is all he's got. Right. That's right.
Wow.
That's what it is.
Well, you know what that means with a batting average like that. I'm going to put the Pirates right at the front of the Matt Carpenter acquisition line, because that will just further solidify their case for the first pick in the 2022 draft. So go get him, Pittsburgh. He'll look good in the black and gold.
You would.
I don't doubt that.
There'd be zero pressure.
I would put it at about 40% that Pittsburgh actually does go after him and bring him on.
Or the Royals, where you got Matheny coaching. That's
DH
true.
over there. The Royals actually look competitive.
Yeah, it's Mike Matheny. So that's one of his guys. He's a leader of men. I mean, so.
Mike Matheny is, or Matt Carpenter?
Either. Magic Mike.
Do either of them have prestige value?
Not really.
Worldwide.
No. No, it's just like I feel terrible for the guy, and I really mean that. I feel terrible in the sense that no matter what you're trying, like you're just not getting the results that you used to get. So it's funny because I put part of the blame of his decline on the fact that he just can't beat a shift. Right, they shift him. The whole league does, and he just can't seem to crack it. And then the guy I was talking to just 2 days ago, or yesterday, corrects me. He's like, actually, he had a better batting average when the shift was on than when it wasn't. And I don't know what the sample size is for each, but I'm like, shit, man. Every time I say something, that guy Ben Cerruti is always like, he's always that one. You know, we always have that guy that we know. It's like, that's not quite right. You know, that raises their hand, and you're like, fuck, man, stop throwing facts at me. They're getting in the way of my feelings. So, yeah, that's
shifting to the other end.
If you want to get a thumb on the pulse of Cardinals Nation, it's anxiety over DeYoung's he's really had a bad spring, and Carpenter has, and so that's where all the I think anxiety is coming from. A little bit around the pitching too, because we've had some injuries we're dealing with.
So a little bit of prescription of Xanax for the beginning of the season for the Cardinals fans.
That would help.
Shifting to the other side of the I-55 rivalry. Extension talk was actually what we talked about in the last one. You know, Ron, you asked us who we thought would be around and if old Blue Eyes would be shipped at the deadline. And Elliott, I think from what I've heard, it certainly seems like in order of likelihood, it seems like we're looking at Baez, Rizzo, and Bryant on the extension front. And if that's the way it shapes up, I think we can, you know, give Chris Bryant a hearty handshake, thank him for his service, and count on him hitting the market at the end of the year.
If not sooner.
Yeah.
He hasn't had the greatest of the spring trainings. It looks a lot like last year. I know that it came out just recently that he was injured post, what was a Cincinnati game or a Cleveland game last year where
I think it was the
Cleveland game where he dove and he hurt his thumb. And, you know, I get it. Those injuries linger, but you know, everybody else has actually looked pretty decent this spring, way more than they did last season. But I would have to imagine of what they're paying him now and what they feel like they would have to pay him based on his previous years, that he will not be a Cub, I think, post July 31st.
Yeah, I think it's hard to justify based on his performance the last year and a half.
Almost 2.
Yeah, almost 2 years. I think it's hard to justify paying him $20 million plus in a long-term contract.
Right.
Especially when you look at their farm system and think, and that's the other thing that I'm not sure about with locking up Baez to an extension. I know that a lot of people want to see that happen, but locking Baez in, when you look at all the shortstops that they have in their system, what do you do in 3 or 4 years when Christian Hernandez is knocking at the door? I mean, they just signed him as a 17-year-old IFA. He's already their 4th ranked prospect in the system. You know, if he does follow the Alex Rodriguez path that a lot of people have compared him to, and he's knocking at the door of Major League Baseball in 3 or 4 years, how do you justify signing Javi Baez to a 8-9 year extension?
Well, you move him to third base.
Do you?
Who are you going to put
He's
in
got
short?
he's got the arm.
Well, sure, he has the arm, but do you want to take his glove away from short, though? Who are you going to put there?
Well, supposedly Christian Hernandez.
Christian Hernandez, yeah.
Slick. He's not just a bat. He's also got a great glove.
If you guys been paying attention to Cardinals Nation in our regards to our prospects and getting overexcited about the ones coming up and being disappointed more times than not, you guys should be paying more attention. When you get too high on some of these guys, you're setting yourself up to have to explain your ass later. So I'm just warning you guys. I love you. I care about you. Don't do it.
No, but I'm not, Ron, the point I'm not making is that I'm already excited about somebody who I've never seen play and who has never faced professional pitching. It's given the wealth of shortstops that they currently have in the system, how do you justify signing Javi Baez to an extension that's going to take him into his mid-30s, thinking that he's going to be because he's already 29.
Yeah.
So if you sign him for 6 years, you're talking about a 35-year-old shortstop. Do you really think that he's going to be a better glove man than anybody else that they possibly have?
Well, if you think about it,
his glove is still really good.
It is, and he's quick. But guys, think about it though. I mean, if you like, I wouldn't hesitate that much. He's that damn good. I'm ignoring 2020. For a lot of guys, I am, and I'm ignoring DJ LeMahieu's 2020, by the way, who batted like, 380? I wouldn't have any heartburn over signing him. I don't care if it takes him to 35 or not. If he's a core player, he's a core player. And Pete, what you do with that excess, if you don't believe that one of those has a higher ceiling than him in the near future, that's trade bait, man. That's what minor league systems are cultivated for. Partly because you think some of these guys are going to come up and be cost controlled and be your core or replace core pieces or be key contributors. The others, you know that, hey man, these are trade chips because we have an excess here, or we have our guy. The Cardinals had Nolan Gorman was their highly touted prospect, and he's a third baseman. Well, they just acquired Nolan Arenado for a lot of money and for a lot of years. He ain't opting out of this deal.
Hell no.
And so what do they do with him now? He's either trade material or they're grooming him now for second base. So, if you have a plethora at a position, there's some of those guys are going to find new positions, perhaps, like Nolan Gorman
Absolutely.
has, or they're going to be trade chips because that's your core centerpiece guy. You want him. You want to keep him long term. It is hard to say.
They're already talking about one of the prospects on, I forget which one. I don't know if it's Preciado or one of the others. But one of the prospects that the Cubs picked up in the Darvish trade, everybody's already projecting him to be a third baseman.
Yeah.
That they think he's just going to be too big to play shortstop. Great, fine. But now you have, you're still talking about possibly having 4 or 5 guys who right now are projected as shortstops. One of them undoubtedly will move to the outfield, probably center field. One of them will get traded. That still leaves, what do you do with Javi when he's 35 years old and you have a bunch of 20-year-olds who are ready to stack the infield?
Yeah, it depends on what they think their timetable is on those guys, right? And if you're not keeping somebody like Bryant, maybe third base is, by the time he's 33, 34, maybe third base is a destination for him, and maybe he's okay with that. Or maybe it's second base. You never know. But it's okay to have a surplus at any given position. That's called insurance, right? And speaking of insurance, you guys should check out the Wiley Group. It has 2 locations in Festus and Arnold to serve you. They offer home, auto, boat, motorcycle, business, life insurance, investments, and so much more. They can customize an approach unique to your situation to make sure you, your family, and assets are properly protected. They offer great rates and savings. Give them a call today at 636-764-6294 to do an insurance review, or you can just talk sports with these guys. They know their stuff, especially the St. Louis crowd. So if you don't have time, feel free to email Sean at SeanWiley@allstate.com.
Damn, Ron, that was so slick.
Like that? Did you like that?
We should. You know what? That was almost as slick as like
what that deserves?
3 a.m. bathroom visit after a nice laxative before you go to bed.
That's right.
That's how slick that was. Good. Just reminding you guys just how shitty this podcast can be. And speaking of shitty moves in the middle of the night, what the hell are the Bears doing? I mean, we had to talk about it at some point.
Pete, before you do
in
that,
in the last 24 hours.
Hold on. I got something for you because
okay.
You guys know David Portnoy, right?
Yeah.
Barstool Sports President, El Presidente. He's never at a loss for an opinion or words or anything. And when you can get him to raise his voice up a couple pitches, right, to basically sound like a different sex, you've stumped him. When he heard of this Bears signing, this was his reaction.
What are you doing? What are these guys doing? What are you doing?
Is that not kind of a good, what are we all thinking? What are all of us thinking?
Not just with the Andy Dalton signing, because I don't know if you guys have been paying attention, but in the last couple of hours, it's been announced they've released Kyle Fuller.
Yep.
And they've told Akeem Hicks that he can go ahead and he can seek a trade.
And Allen Robinson
has signed his franchise tag.
Yes. Which I did not see coming.
We're all talking. I love this. We are like
a lot of people are speculating that
we're like a platoon that's out of step. Rob. We're a platoon that's out of step. We're stepping all over each other because we're so pissed off over this. So we're just going to have to take turns. Elliott, you take your turn. Pete was leading us down this path. We're going to let him be the drum major here on on the shittiest podcast ever. You are the drum major right now, and you're going to lead us through this discussion.
You want to see blood pressure just rise on a podcast. Here it is.
And he didn't hear a word I just said, did he? You turned into my son briefly.
Go.
Okay.
No, Elliott, you have the floor. You launch first. Fire your missiles.
So as Ron said that Dave Portnoy kind of raised the voice. There's another guy that I love listening to in Chicago sports, Lawrence Holmes on 670 The Score. This guy had a rant that was just epic, and he does not get pissed about anything. But he went on and pretty much about everything that we have been chatting about and tweeting about and texting about the last 48 hours. It has, like, the Chicago franchise, if there's one thing that they have effed up in the last 25 years, it's quarterback.
Shit, like 40 years, man. I mean,
more than 25.
Continuously. And Ryan Pace has continuously messed this position up from the time that he became the general manager up to now. I mean, look at his draft picks, look at the trades, look at the signings. Glennon, I mean, how many millions of dollars was that?
and it's like Elliott, it's like can you please ship us? Can we please allow us to print the most boring name in our paper tomorrow? And Pace is like, hold my beer. I'm going to give you the most boring names to talk about. Glennon. Yeah. I tried to erase that one from memory. He's like the human giraffe, longest neck I've ever seen.
He played 3 games. We paid him $18 million guaranteed. He played 3 games.
He's made more money playing for the Bears in his career than he has in his other 8 seasons. You realize that? He's made 11. I read it earlier today. He's made, I think it's $11.5 million in the 8 seasons that he's been in the NFL. He made $18.5 million with the Bears.
It's like Ryan Pace is an irresponsible teenager that you gave the credit card to. And he's not, and he's just going out and buying shit, not running it by you, and you're getting the bill like a month later. Like, what the fuck were you doing? What's the common denominator, guys? They've been through GMs. They've been through quarterbacks. It's been the damn ownership group, right? Like, why can't they get this one even halfway right? Like, halfway right. Get a halfway competent quarterback, one that's like maybe just below league average. Why is it a catastrophe every time they put somebody new in? It just fails so horribly. Like, I don't know how many experts called it when they drafted Trubisky. We might have even said it on here. Like, what the fuck are we doing? Because
everybody did.
Yeah, everybody did, and they were right.
You could have got him at number 4,
3,
3. I'm sorry.
3. They had the 3rd pick. They traded up. That was the problem I had with it. You miss on scouting Trubisky, fine. But what they gave away in order to get him to move up one space. And I'll tell you guys, you're absolutely right. It's the McCaskies, but I think the worst part about it is the McCaskies empowering Ted Phillips, because he's been the one who's been at the head of this organization for over 20 years. And it's just been unbelievably dysfunctional. But so when news broke and you guys were both like, Andy Dalton? And remember, my response was, here's the hope I'm holding out for, is that this is a fallback, right? That they're pushing for Wilson, but they need to get somebody because everybody's going to start signing yesterday on Wednesday, right? And then immediately after they signed Dalton, the story breaks that the Bears had pushed hard on Russell Wilson. They had offered 3 first-round picks and a bunch of other stuff. And the Seahawks said, we're not trading him yet. And then Dalton had his press conference today, and he said, they told me I'm the starter. So that means that this was their move.
Yeah.
This was their big quarterback move.
Yeah. They're hoping the whole Wilson thing would provide air cover.
As I was setting up tonight, and I was scrolling through Twitter as I was going through everything, and it suddenly hit me. What if the reason that they brought back Pace and Nagy was because they were given marching orders, destroy the team, get us a good pick. We, instead of firing you this year, we'll give you 1 more year, overpay you because you're not cut out to do the job, but you tear this sucker down. So bye-bye Kyle Fuller, bye Akeem Hicks. They were probably counting on Allen Robinson leaving because they wouldn't give him an extension. You pick up Andy Dalton instead of getting a real quarterback. Just get us under the cap. light the whole goddamn thing on fire so that we can get somebody else. And the big draw is, hey, you've got the first pick in the draft. What if that was part of the agreement that we're never going to hear about, is that this was all part of the plan, and that's why they extended these two clowns?
Well, I mean, it's like, do you want to really hand another first round pick to this crew? Right.
Exactly. But that's the point. If you tank this year and you get the first round pick, that makes you all that much more attractive to the next team to completely change. Because had they fired Pace and Nagy this year, right? Who wants to come in and take over this dumpster fire? You have a team that qualified for the playoffs, so you don't have a high pick to start over with. Well, but Phillips is part of the and maybe Phillips is part of that deal. You get to stay around for one more year. We're going to burn this shit to the ground, and then we can get somebody who's legit, who otherwise wouldn't be interested in coming in because we have no assets. But if you can come into a situation where you've got a high first round pick and you've got cap space and you still have some talent on the defense, who knows?
How many good defenses have been wasted, though? I mean, the careers of for
the Bears.
I mean, it's you can't take inventory of it, right? It's impossible, and
most of the mid 2000s.
Well, I don't want to go as far as say they wasted Urlacher's career. They did take him to a Super Bowl, right? Or he took them, more appropriately stated. But
yeah, with goddamn Rex Grossman.
Hey,
he's our quarterback.
Yeah.
It should have been Kyle Orton. I'm sorry.
Neckbeard. I mean,
absolutely.
He played most of the year and got him there in the first place, got him in the position there for the playoffs.
He managed the game. Rex Grossman was just like Jay Cutler, where he's just said, fuck it, and he chucked it down the line. Pardon my French.
You know what, though? I mean, as much of a dumpster fire as he was personally, I'd rather have that there behind the center than
smoking Jay Cutler.
Yeah, with a cigarette in his mouth and right inside of his helmet. I don't care. I'd rather have that attitude, at least something that's entertaining. Like, he's gonna gunsling one constantly. He's gonna get a little bit behind. He's gonna try to do something spectacular.
At least he could get it down there.
Yeah, at least he had the physical talent too as well. I mean, Pete, it's just like I'm looking up every fourth or fifth year and I'm seeing another cloning of Jim Miller. Back in 2001 when the Bears had another excellent team and they were a quarterback short of being like legit Super Bowl favorites that year. They were just missing a quarterback. But God, how many times are we saying this? When they bring in receivers like from Carolina, like Muhammad, and you don't have a quarterback to throw to him. And I think he was quoted at one point as saying that's where receivers go to die, Chicago, because they get off the bus running, or at least they did under Lovey, which we all knew was bullshit. I don't know. I don't know, guys.
Gentlemen, what's shittier, this podcast or the 9 quarterbacks that Ryan Pace has brought through Hallis Hall in his years? I'm going to make you guys kind of want to throw up. Actually, okay. I've got my sound effects at the ready.
Okay.
Here we go. Mitchell Trubisky, Nick Foles, Jay Cutler, Chase Daniel, Mike Glennon, Brian Hoyer, Matt Barkley, and Jimmy Clausen.
Oh,
it's a rough list, man. At least with the Cutler thing, you thought that was the only legitimate what if, right? That you thought
he was a Pro Bowl.
Yeah,
Pro Bowler. He threw for 4,000 yards.
I mean, but that was the one you like. Okay, what if it works for him better here, right? Because they were clearly sick of his shit in Denver.
Yeah.
But that was the only one out of those, Pete, that I looked at and go, hey man, that might not be a bad move. Of course, it was a bad move because he didn't care.
Of course, it was.
Yeah. I mean, he didn't care. He reveled in not caring. That's his shtick.
He was the man of not caring.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He had zero to give.
He gave 0 fucks across the board. Yeah. I've never, and I don't know if it was just his resting bitch face constantly on the sideline, but I mean, it just, I've never seen such a, such a pouty pissy pants over there on an NFL sideline than Cutler.
He might as well have.
You don't know if he was really feeling that way or not, because that's just the way he is, probably every day. Just don't care. Okay, I didn't want to play anyway. I didn't want to play the second half anyway. I don't care. That's just what it looks like.
So I don't know when Doug Buffone said this, but I saw this on the internet
and rest
today.
in peace, sir.
Yeah. So this was obviously years ago, but he said the Bear organization is a loser. They hire losers, and then they try to put gravy on bad meat to make it taste better. Like that is absolutely what is going on at Hallis Hall right now.
Yeah. Well, I look at the Bears like this. I'll put it a little bit different way, Pete. It's like getting a dish and the sides are spectacular. The main, the showcase, the main entree sucks, right? And you've been to restaurants like that before where you got a steak. Steak is terrible. Fucking sides, the sweet potato fries are spectacular. And that's what the Bears have consistently been. They've never been able to put a dish together, ever. The most important position in sports is quarterback. How have they fucked it up so badly year over year, decade over decade? It's just the one spot they just can't get right. Why is that a kryptonite to them? I don't understand it.
I'd rather them try to talk Breeze out of retiring and getting him for one more year.
Rather than talk Manning out of retiring.
Right. Exactly. Than have Andy Dalton, because we saw what he did in Cincinnati, or at least I did because I have family who live there. And then he was awful with a great offense in Dallas.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Chicago's a perfect destination.
It is. It really is.
I mean,
we're all secretly wanting to eat our words and wanting to
pour
have
gasoline
like a Pro Bowl
on it and light a match. Yeah. I mean, that is exactly what is happening. And you got the match sitting at QB.
Greg Yackey says, Cutler, Jay all day. 6. Yeah, I agree, man. I'd be more excited for him to come out of retirement with smoke-filled lungs and everything.
He's got nothing else to do. Nope. He's a single dude.
I'd rather somebody come back with a cannon who doesn't give a shit.
Exactly. Yeah. Just have him throw it down there all damn day.
Mm-hmm. No mobility whatsoever at this point. Hell, he might even just wear a robe.
He doesn't even give a shit.
A robe and a helmet.
Shotgun every day.
Right. I don't know. It sucks being a Bears fan. We've been like tenderized for like 30 years, like with a meat tenderizer, just hitting us for 30 years. This shouldn't bother us this much, but like I think it's just unbelievable to get to the point where can you really be getting worse at this one, like getting this one thing right? How are you getting worse? It's amazing. It really is.
It's like being a Cubs fan all the way up until like 2014.
I don't know. At least they had a couple of runs in them, but
so have the Bears. I mean, they went to the play. They've gone to the playoffs. What? Two out of the last 3 years.
And every time they've done it, like going back to 2001 when they went to the playoffs, right? Going all the way back then. Like what have we always known the Bears going to the playoffs? What are they short on?
They're gonna fuck it up. The quarterback.
Yeah, exactly. It's been that way every time. It's been that way every time.
Good enough defense to get them there. Bad enough offense to just screw it up in the first round.
Yeah, to put more pressure on the defense and keep them out on the field 80% of the minutes.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean,
same old story, different quarterback.
It is. We're beating a dead horse, but we all feel the same way. And I'm sure anybody who's
the horse has been dead for 50 years.
It has. Yeah. It really has. And you know what? Jim McMahon wasn't a spectacular quarterback. It was so overwhelming.
No, he wasn't. At least they were smart enough to hand it off to Peyton.
He was Jay Cutler.
Well, yeah, very much. I mean, as far as attitude, but at least at least McMahon didn't. He didn't put him in a position where they were going to cough the game up or lose, right? You know, so he wasn't quite that guy, right? He didn't hurt him. And I know I threw Jim Miller's name out there. I give him a lot of shit, but he would fall into that category too. He's not going to put you in a position where he's going to hurt you that bad, but he's not going to lead you to a comeback either. It's the Bears.
Yep.
This is being a Bears fan. It's embarrassing.
It's worse than being a Cardinals fan.
No, it's not. You know, the Browns have been like the butt of the league for decades now, right? And we have switched position. We are now the ass end of the NFL. Chicago Bears fans, we are. We're the ass end of the NFL. It's the way it feels.
Yep.
I have to agree with you.
There are teams that are worse. There are teams that are worse, but somehow we're the laughingstock.
Well.
And you know what's going to happen? Pace is going to trade up. He's going to reach, and he's going to get the wrong quarterback again this year.
Well, then we'll be back here about the same time, same place next year, bitching about the Bears quarterback. Yeah, I know. I know Peter feels the
No,
same way.
we won't. We'll be back here next year talking about the Bears' new general manager and president of football operations.
That's right. They need to hire AJ
Theo
Preller.
Epstein.
AJ Preller. They need to get Jerry DiPoto in here this year just to blow it up, and then hire Preller in to build it up. That's the formula right there.
DiPoto just starts making trades, and all of the other football GMs are completely confused. Like, we don't make trades. That
We don't do.
doesn't happen in the NFL.
That's not how
we
we
don't do this. You just you sign guys for
That's
fake
it.
contracts.
You sign them. All right. You pull a Marlins 2011, and you sign a bunch of guys and go, shit, ain't working. Ship them out.
Yep.
Fire sale.
Yep. It's just like that hat you're wearing, Elliott. We've seen it many, many times.
That's right.
I think they're here to stay, though, now. And we might as well get our San Diego Padres bid in a little bit. I still feel the same way I did, even with the acquisition of Nolan Arenado. Excited to see the season start. But I tell you what, when that Padres-Dodgers matchup inevitably shows up on ESPN on a Sunday night or something, I am going to be watching.
It's going to be
going to
great.
be a good game. That rivalry is going to be hot this year.
I'm going to be there next weekend. So, Ron, maybe I'll pick you up a Tatis jersey.
Jersey?
Yeah.
I'll wear
Would you
that
prefer
jersey.
I pronounce it jersey?
I'd rather you pronounce it homegrown.
Homegrown?
Yeah.
Baseball has been very good to me.
Is Hulkon.
We're bastards. Go ahead. All right. I know we have another topic. This one's not pleasant. Not pleasant. But we are at the 40-minute mark. We got about a third of the show left. This is territory that I typically see, and I sprint the opposite direction. And I know as far as where we all fall on politics, we all probably fall in a little bit different spot. But that's the wonderment I have about why can't we kind of exist this way. Pete and I probably fall a little bit different spots on the political spectrum. But we can sit down and have a beer together and talk baseball and be best friends for like 2 decades. It really is amazing how all you can do is just have a different opinion and maybe express it differently in a way that really doesn't cause anybody any real harm, but you're immediately labeled something that you're not. You could have grown up a certain way your entire life, thought a certain way, never brought real harm onto anybody. You say one thing these days on social media that's different than the far left opinion, and you're labeled something, and you're kind of painted in a way that it perhaps isn't fair. But as a celebrity or anybody that, ask Tom Brenneman, anytime you take any job or position where you put yourself in the spotlight, I guess it's a hazard, right? It's a work hazard, and it's there. And if you play with fire, sometimes you are going to get burnt. And of course, I'm talking about cancel culture. I'm talking about Gina Carano. We touched on this a few weeks ago, I think, when we had Elle on. Just going over the whole scenario. We know a little bit more now. She did an interview with Ben Shapiro on the Ben Shapiro show.
Shapiro.
I call it Shapiro. You call him Shapiro. I call him Shapiro. See, we're different.
Well, his name's pronounced Shapiro, so you can call him whatever you want, but you'll be
Well, I
wrong.
like Mark Shapiro, and it's spelled the
You
same way.
need to be canceled.
Probably.
And then there's a deep drive out into left field, and Castellanos has put the
And it's
Cubs
going
up
to
by
be
2 more
4-0.
runs.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I know. I wish she would have said that during the interview, because I would have maybe pissed my pants on the drive back to Illinois. I would have died laughing. But anyway, guys, you guys have known me well enough for a few years now. This is not the most comfortable subject matter, because all we do is nobody's tuning into our podcast to hear our opinion on these types of things, right? They want to hear jokes. They want to hear us laughing. They want to hear us talking sports almost exclusively, a little bit about the fun of Star Wars, but not this type of stuff. I mean, the only thing we stand to gain here is fucking it up and making somebody mad. And that's why we don't do it very often, because it's just not what we do. We certainly have opinions on this. We certainly talk about it. We have our own internal dialogue. We don't get in front of the mics and talk about this stuff very much, but I don't know, guys. This is something that has bothered me over the last couple weeks, that really having a different opinion like this gets you canceled. And it really does. And who does it really hurt at the end of the day? Can people not deal with other people's opinions? There are people that think different from you. They just see things differently.
All over.
Is that really going to? How is that affecting your day job tomorrow? Are you not able to wake up and work because a celebrity had an opinion on masks or anything else that you don't agree with, and it's outrage? Why does society these days just default to outrage anytime somebody has the opposite opinion of you? Guys, this is just something I don't understand. I don't understand it. It's always bugged me about things like Twitter and social media is that, the mob is out there and they'll call for your head. They'll hashtag you when you have any opinion that differs from theirs. And the far, far left, which I'm not on, they're worse. They're in many ways as bad as the people that they despise. It bugs the shit out of me.
And
I'll agree. I agree with that.
And the ironic thing about this, Ron, is that was exactly the point that Gina Carano was making that led to her getting fired by Disney. The point that she was making, and that a lot of people missed, is she wasn't comparing the left to Nazis, and she wasn't comparing the right to Jews. What she was saying is the way that the Nazis were able to do what they did and put the Jews in camps was because they started by getting the Nazis started by getting people to not trust their neighbors. And to turn in their neighbors and to rat out their neighbors. And that's where it starts. When you don't care about your neighbor and you're willing to call them out for whatever small slight it is, that's that first pebble that eventually turns into an avalanche where the population looks the other way when you ship people off to the gas chambers. That was the point that she was making. And that's what we're seeing right now, particularly on the left, is that you demonize people who don't agree with you for anything.
Right.
You don't trust your neighbor. You don't take the time to actually engage with your neighbor and find out what they truly think and why they think that. Instead, it's, you don't think what I think, so you're gone. And here's where the problem is. It keeps, the target keeps moving and moving and moving so that somebody like J.K. Rowling, who was very out there and was beloved by the left 5 years ago when she made Dumbledore gay and she intimated that Hermione was gay, even though none of that's actually in the books, but she said it, she was a hero. But now, because she refuses to say that a trans woman is actually a woman, now she's a target because it just keeps going and going and going. And Pablo Pascal was safe right now on his tweets because he said the right thing and Gina Carano didn't. But give it a couple of years and he'll get canceled the same as she did unless he keeps moving further. And that's what worries me about this, is that eventually nobody's safe. And if you think you're safe from the mob's eventually going to come for you.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know. It's just disappointing. It's disappointing. Look, and this is not about me liking that character. I was liking that character a little bit more. Did I think Gina Carano was a strong actor and totally made that show? No, of course not. Right? The story was great. Her character just happened to be
Disney
a part of it.
clearly thought enough of her that she was going to star in one of their upcoming series.
Yeah.
So they obviously didn't think that she was a terrible actress.
No, and I don't think she was terrible either, but I didn't think, she's one of my top 5.
Well, like Star Wars has always been about the acting.
Yeah, right. No, Star Wars
or the directing.
Right. Star Wars at the end of the day is about
but they're moving that way.
Well,
thankfully.
Yes, and if it's story centric, that's where Star Wars wins, when it's story centric. And but anyway, guys, I didn't want to dwell too much on this topic. It's just one of those things that I listened to that podcast she did, and I know she thought some things were innocent. She maybe came across that way, but she's not. She's no dummy. She knows she was playing with a little bit. She was playing with lighter fluid. You had to know that, and you had to know what the risk was that was out there, and you had to know that. Look, this is Disney. There's a community out there that, if you rub them the wrong way, you're going to pay the price. And unfortunately, now this is the price. You lose your job. And it's just.
But she's landed on her feet, and she's landed on her feet because she did the one thing that the mob can't stand. She refused to apologize.
Mm-hmm. Well, she refused to apologize the way they wanted her to. She wasn't going to do that. She wasn't going to.
Yeah, because I felt like she was sorry that maybe she wasn't clear enough with her point. Mm-hmm. But well,
the whole Twitter bio thing.
People overreact. People. I mean,
nothing.
I want to say it's not even a majority. It's just the loud part of a certain sect. Just their voices go over everything else, and it sucks when it goes. And it doesn't matter where you're at. It's like the slightest way that people either fuck up or make a mistake, or, you know, I this was kind of taken out of context and I really didn't mean it that way. I just didn't word it correctly. People screw up and then they get crucified for it, and it sucks. And there's no matter, and sometimes no matter if they apologize for it or not, they're still crucified for it.
Yeah.
And it's
there's no apology that you can make that they'll accept, because
absolutely, because
they're calling for your head immediately.
They made their mind, and this is how it is, and I don't care what you say, what you meant, I don't believe you. And it's like, okay, shut up.
Because ultimately it's not about agreement. Ultimately what it is it's about power. It's about having power over other people and allowing them
absolutely
behaving the way you want them to behave, and having them think that the way you think, or else not allowing them access to not just the mainstream, but to a way of living it. Look at Chris Harrison. He came out and groveled with that whole Bachelor episode. And what ended up, did they let him back?
Was this the new season?
I don't even know what
at the very end of this latest season.
I heard something happened, but I don't know what.
We're not going to get into the details, but he came out and he apologized and he said, what I did was wrong. And I've listened to people and everything.
Right.
And the ultimate result is he's out. So he did everything that you're supposed to do, right? You're supposed to be contrite. You're supposed to say, I've learned that, I've educated myself, blah, 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 blah. And it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
Because they still want you out, because it's not about agreement. It's about power. That's really what this is all about. And they exercised their power, and they got Chris Harrison, canceled and fired because he made the mistake and he apologized and he showed weakness. And they weren't able to do it to Gina Carano because she stood up for herself, and the Daily Wire came in and said, hey, let's make a movie.
Well, the interview is good. And look, I don't agree with Ben Shapiro on everything.
No.
But at least he has an argument, and it's thought out argument. It's not just fueled on emotion. And that's why I don't mind listening to a lot of what he has to say. And in fact, that's one of the points I go to kind of look in on an issue I'm not really sure how I feel about. Sometimes I can go to sources like that are thinking about it, right? It's well thought out, and it's supported by fact or supported by science. And so I'm not sitting here saying I'm going to call him Shapiro, because Mark Shapiro is spelled the same way, and he pronounces it Shapiro. So,
yes,
look, man, again, just a subject matter that feels just, we're trying to fit it in awkwardly into our shtick here. And sometimes it works. Sometimes it really doesn't. I feel like this is
most of the time it doesn't, because this is a shitty podcast.
This is a shitty podcast.
Super shitty.
I just don't know why, just everybody cannot look, what is the real problem in these things? Is it what she said, or is it just how you feel? Let's get to the root of the issues on most of these things, because we live in a world with billions of people. Not everybody's going to think the same way. You're going to have to accept that fact at some point in time. There's just people are going to have different opinions. I can't stand Aubrey Huff. I think he's a dickhead out there online, but I understand his frustration with thinking government overreached on a few things as far as the pandemic goes by shutting things down and made masks mandatory. And I get why people are against that. So if I can just pause for a second and understand, why does that person feel this way? I don't know why I don't know why people just can't do that. Just stop for a second.
And it's because, look, and Ron, it's ultimately because we can't agree on anything, because we all have free will and we all have our own minds. And, if we can get back to a time where we can all agree that we're not going to agree on everything, and I'm not saying agree to disagree. I'm saying that we can all understand that we're not going to agree on everything. I think the world would be a better place than it is right now. Although I think there is one thing that we can all agree on, and that's that St. Louis is truly boring. If you enjoyed this shitty episode, and I doubt you did, don't forget to subscribe. And if you want to help spread the word, please give a 5-star review and tell your friends to subscribe. We're available on Facebook, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever else you listen to podcasts. Also, be sure to check out the other Gateway City Sports Network podcasts, including the Derek King Sports Show every Wednesday at 9 a.m. on Facebook Live, and 2 for 3 with Moose Michaels. You can send us an email at the show at teamofrivalspodcast.com. You can find permanent occasional guest host Elliott on Twitter at
TOR_Elliott.
And you can find number 48 at
TOR_Ron75. You got to add that 75 in there. Cromer leaves it out all the time.
That's right.
It's in a suspended account. Don't know why.
So, gentlemen, I mean, it wasn't our best podcast. It might have been our shittiest. But I do want to thank you guys for indulging me from the throne. And Ron, before I throw it to you, I just have one last remark that I want to make. Hang on just a second.
Let me give you the screen. Nice.
Love it.
Wow.
Hey, real quick question before we all get out of here. You guys doing the Falcon and Winter Soldier tomorrow?
I can tell you probably no.
Okay.
In fact, I just finished WandaVision this last weekend. I was at home, and did he really leave?
I think so.
Okay. I think that's how he's signing out, which is fine. No, I did finish WandaVision finally. It was okay.
Okay.
And so I probably won't be following Winter Soldier, whatever this other thing is, week over week. But I'm happy to talk about it. I'll try. My son definitely
it's supposed to be pretty good buddy cop sort of thing. More of what the Avengers and stuff like that was. More of a realistic instead of a, I don't want to say sci-fi, but mystic show like WandaVision kind of was. So
Yaki says wash your hands, and I don't think he did.
I don't think he did either.
I don't think he did either.
At least he's got the
We should probably just go ahead and end the live feed like this. Elliott, I'll do my best to keep up with it. I'm not up on what the what do they call those things? A synopsis or anything of the show is, but I'll catch up to it just like I did WandaVision. I'm a late adopter to the Marvel thing. I'm proud to wear that. Proud to wear that badge. But Pete, he made a dramatic exit tonight. This is fantastic. We're just looking. For those of you who are just going to listen to the audio version of this, we are literally looking at his caboozle right now with his microphone in front of it, and he has exited the podcast. But thanks for your contributions tonight, Pete. How little they were. But thank you, Elliott. All right, so that's it. That's it for us tonight. I'm not really sure what to say. Cardinals fans, relax. The real baseball starts in 2 weeks. We'll have probably a different sounding show in a couple of weeks. But we'll be back next week. Sorry about the delay in episodes we got out. My son turned 16 last week, which is still hard for me.
Congrats.
Still hard for me to comprehend that he's 16. I mean, I had to grapple with the fact that he was a teenager 3 years ago. Now he's 16.
Mine turned 7. So
7. That's good. Yeah, I think we all had kids that had birthdays around the same time. I know Sam.
Yeah.
Sam just turned 10, and I've got another birthday coming up in a few weeks for Will. Will turns 8. It's birthday season. My wife turns, I'm not going to say her age. She has a birthday on April 17th. It's a number she doesn't like. That's where I'll stop. And
50?
No.
No, just kidding, Sarah, if you're listening.
No, trust me, she's not listening. So yeah, it's birthday season for me. Baseball's coming back. We'll all be good. Everything will be fine.
We'll have some interesting baseball conversations coming up in the next few weeks that I'm sure everybody is looking forward to. So we'll have a little bit more substance, and we'll be looking in a little bit more on the ins and outs and the happenings going on. Yeah. So right now, spring training, it is what it is, like it is every year.
2 weeks of shit,
and then we'll really start getting into it.
It's 2 weeks of shit. All we're going to hear about is guys that got sent down, that they're going to have to start making cuts. Fine, we expect this happens every year. We know who we're getting. There's not a lot of mystery left, and so we'll just have to trudge through the next couple of weeks. We'll have to plan something fun next week, and I promise we will. And we'll be back here next Thursday night. And we love you all so much, and you can enjoy the toilet scene as we exit. We'll talk to you next week, everyone. Bye-bye.